Awakening is betrayal, an exquisite, necessary betrayal of everything that once made you feel safe. It is not betrayal of family, of country, of faith, but a quiet revolt against the half-life we mistake for living. Imagine it: the polite laugh you give at the office, the nod you offer at a party while your real thoughts wander elsewhere, the smile you rehearse before stepping on stage in the morning light of your own kitchen mirror. We have all done it, carrying paper-thin identities through the crowded marketplace of approval, hoping no one notices the seams. Yet beneath that small-talk choreography echoes a myth older than language. A solitary wanderer pausing at the edge of a moonlit ravine, hearing the first whisper of a drum beyond the trees. A call that says, "Cross and nothing will be the same." Joseph Campbell reminds us that every hero begins in this mundane town square, convinced that the bustle is all there is, until a flicker of unease shivers through the sky. We feel it in the restless hour before dawn, in the sudden silence that falls between two strangers on a subway car. In the moment, our own reflection refuses to meet our gaze. The machines of habit churn around us, but something in the gears grinds at a different rhythm. The hero's interior eye opens not with a trumpet blast, but with a question. Is this really me, or merely the costume I learned to wear? That seed of disquiet may be tiny, hardly visible in the glare of routine, yet it swells like a tide beneath the floorboards. It is the tension Nietzsche spoke of, the vibration where the mask slips and the truth leaks out. When the mask loosens, what appears is not a monster but a child, wide-eyed, luminous, afraid of the distance between what it longs for and what it has agreed to accept. To turn toward that child is to step past the village gate, and though the road ahead seems lonely, it is the only place a real conversation can begin. Separation, Campbell says, is never rejection, but preparation. The hero's path curves away from consensus, because consensus cannot teach transcendence. It can only reward obedience. That first mile alone, padded by doubt, is the sacred corridor where borrowed beliefs fall away like leaves in an autumn wind, revealing the raw branches of authentic desire. You will notice, perhaps for the first time, how rigidly the ordinary world tethers its inhabitants. Watch a commuter clutching a coffee cup, as if warmth were certainty. Watch a teenager scrolling through endless screens, seeking a self in pixels. Watch yourself rehearsing a polite, "I'm fine," when a wilder answer pounds inside your chest. These gestures are gears, each click calibrated by fear of exile. Yet exile is exactly what the mythic psyche requires. The hero is not an exile from humanity, but from illusion. To leave the crowd is to discover that you belong to something larger than agreement, the vast, unmapped country of your own becoming. So do not mourn the fracturing of familiarity. The first crack in a porcelain mask is the beginning of a mouth. Through it, the buried voice will one day sing. Stay with that shiver. It is the drumbeat across the ravine, summoning you to the threshold, where the known dissolves and possibility begins. The call deepens in solitude, that most misunderstood of landscapes. Solitude is not an empty room. It is a threshold chamber where echoes turn into answers. When you accept the invitation to walk beyond the city gates and the chorus of approval fades behind you, you do not enter a void. You enter an ancient forest whose trees remember every dream you ever stifled. Their branches weave a cathedral canopy, and above the night sky widens like a story still unwritten. Campbell would say the mentor appears here, though not always in human form. Sometimes guidance arrives as a single memory blooming unexpectedly, your younger self painting years ago in a quiet classroom, or the scent of rain on summer asphalt that once made you dizzy with hope. Sometimes it is the hush between heartbeats when you realize the earth is spinning under your feet, whether you comply with convention or not. These are whispers of the mythic, reminding you that the traveler is never truly alone. The universe leans close whenever someone dares to listen. Silence is your initiation. The outer world may interpret your retreat as withdrawal, but you know it is approach to the innermost cave where all projections drop like cloaks at the door. Here, the riddles that kept you busy, career ladders, social proofs, meticulously arranged identities, dissolve into more honest questions. Why am I here? What waits on the other side of fear? Why does my chest ache when the sunlight hits the dust in a quiet room? The mind may clamor for answers, but the soul replies with images, half-remembered myths, fragments of lullabies your grandmother hummed before bedtime. Let them rise. They are breadcrumbs left by generations of wanderers who learned that the heart speaks in symbols because truth is too large for linear speech. Embrace the discomfort. Campbell tells us that refusal of the call is natural. Even the bravest hero hesitates. But notice how the path still glimmers at the edge of vision, no matter how many times you turn away. It glimmers because it is carved in the grain of your being. To ignore it is to fracture yourself. To follow is to risk everything you are not, in order to reveal everything you are. Before we journey onward, pause with me. If these words stir something unnamed inside you, if you feel the forest floor beneath your feet, the cool breath of destiny on your skin, know that you are not reading by accident. I invite you to join a living circle of travelers, souls scattered across this wide land, who gather here in story and reflection. Step closer, share a memory in the comments. Let your voice braid with ours. Subscribe, not to a channel, but to a fellowship, a caravan moving toward the horizon of what is possible when masks are set down and hearts are set aflame. Trials arrive swiftly once you accept the mantle of wanderer. They seldom look like dragons. More often they resemble late-night thoughts that gnaw at the edges of resolve, or the upturned faces of friends who cannot fathom your disappearance from familiar routines. You may sit at a dinner table where laughter erupts around a story that once amused you and find yourself adrift, a stranger glimpsing the mechanics of belonging. Their mirth moves like clockwork, precise, predictable, indifferent to the ache blooming behind your polite smile. This is not arrogance. This is the cost of vision. Shadows surface in such moments. They wear the familiar shapes of guilt and doubt, voices saying you have become cold, distant, ungrateful for the comforts that cradle the ordinary world. But the true shadow is subtler. It is the temptation to retreat into performance again, to wrap yourself in applause just to end the ache of misunderstanding. Resist. Every mythic text warns that the hero must face darkness without anesthesia. In that encounter, you learn the secret Nietzsche placed beneath his 18th truth. Patterns are confessions. The unease you feel is a confession that your former life no longer fits. The misunderstanding in others reveals their own fear of being unmasked. Then, amid the loneliness, a miracle, connection stripped of illusion. Perhaps it arrives in a conversation past midnight, when someone suddenly lowers their guard and speaks with trembling honesty. Perhaps it appears in your own voice, hearing itself say, "I don't know who I'm becoming, but I know I can't return." Authenticity magnetizes authenticity. Like two travelers meeting at a crossroads, each unsure of direction yet recognizing the same dust on the other's boots, you share a silence richer than 1,000 sermons. In that hush you realize the journey is communal even when traveled alone, and love, real love, needs no camouflage. The trials continue, missteps, relapses into old habits, moments when the forest seems to close, blocking any path forward. Yet each stumble sculpts resilience. Tests, allies, enemies, the triad Campbell notes, are not separate categories, but different masks on the single teacher called experience. Some nights experience comes with gentle hands, other nights with claws, but always with the same instruction: stay awake. Friend, if this path resonates, if you have tasted the hollow sweetness of crowd-pleasing and decided it is not enough, know that I see you. Return to this campfire when the road feels endless. Share your hardships and small victories. Let us hold them like constellations guiding the night march. Subscribe, yes, but more than that, lean in. Let this channel be the letter slipped under your door at dawn, reminding you that you are not lost. You are crossing the threshold of your own magnificence. Eventually the forest thins and the sky brightens, not because the world has changed, but because your eyes have. You emerge carrying no trophies except the quiet authority of someone who has wrestled angels and lived. Campbell calls this the return, bringing the boon back to the village that once seemed both cradle and cage. Yet notice how the streets are the same length as when you left. The cafe still brews the same bitter coffee. Your neighbor still hums the same half-remembered tune while watering geraniums. Everything familiar, and everything altered by the light in which you now behold it. To live in the world without being of it is a paradox only the initiated can sustain. You do not float above life. You stand firmly within it, chopping wood, paying bills, listening to the news of storms in distant towns. But you carry an inner hush that no headline can fracture. Solitude is now peace, not exile. It is the clear pool you return to each dawn to wash the dust from your vision. Freedom is no longer the right to choose any mask, but the audacity to wear none. You speak less, yet each word lands like rain on thirsty soil because it springs from a source untouched by performance. People sense it, the calm gravity, and some draw nearer, curious, while others recoil, threatened by a mirror too honest. Neither reaction sways you. You have become the still point around which their storms may whirl. The boon you offer is simple: presence. Presence that listens without rushing to mend. Presence that witnesses shadows without flinching. Presence that reminds others of their own unattended call. You know now that every face in the crowd is a potential hero mid-dream, waiting for a crack in the facade through which the drumbeat might enter. Your task is not to awaken them. No hero can walk for another, but to stand as living proof that awakening is possible and worth the peril. There will be days when old emptiness returns, when the mechanical lullaby of the ordinary world attempts to rock you back to sleep. In those hours you remember the child behind the mask, take its hand, and step once more into the forest inside your ribcage. The journey is spiral, never line. Each return is a deeper homecoming. And so we arrive here, you and I, at the edge of another threshold. The moment the story ends in words, but begins in your own footsteps. Close your eyes. Feel the pulse of the earth beneath the soles of your feet. It is the same pulse that thundered through Achilles on the shore, through Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree, through every quiet soul who decided that the price of authenticity is nothing compared to the cost of pretending. In that rhythm lives tomorrow's dawn, and it waits for your stride.